It's Thanksgiving football. The Lions taking on the Bears. Actually, the first team they ever played on Thanksgiving back in 1934. I thought that's a pretty cool stat line. Lions coming off a big win over the Colts, Mike. I feel like every time we do this, we are able to talk about one position group that completely dominated. The special teams completely dominated. No, the next week it was the offense that completely dominated. Well, this Sunday it was the defense that completely dominated. We're going on 10 quarters now without allowing a touchdown, which is pretty insane stuff. Aaron Glenn has that group in a sweet spot right now. Just what did you see out of the defense on Sunday, and how good is that group playing right now?
I mean, they're playing out of their minds, especially on the road. That can't be understated at all. They are allowing 28% in the red zone on the road. They've only allowed 14 red zone trips in total. They've only allowed 6 touchdowns the entire season on the road. That's unbelievable. That does not happen every year. There's not another team that's also doing this. This is incredible. This is one of the best defensive displays we've seen in Detroit in a long time. And the biggest thing about it is they're doing it without Aiden Hutchinson, without Alex Anzalone. Derek Barnes is gone. Ifeatu Melifonwu. And now, who knows? Carlton Davis could be out. Terry Arnold didn't play this last Sunday. It's unbelievable what they're able to do scheme wise and with the depth that they have. And I think Aaron Glenn deserves just a ton of credit for this, if not almost all of it.
Was going to be my follow-up for you. Is it that the depth of the team is so good? Is it that the scheming is so good that anybody can pop in there and get the job done? I mean, how are they able to do it being so banged up? I mean, you can't even imagine if they were 100% healthy what they would be doing out there.
Yeah, they're rotating a lot, and positional versatility is a huge thing for Aaron Glenn. He wanted guys that could do multiple things, and they have that, especially in the secondary with, you've got Mosley returning. He could be corner, he could be safety. Brian Branch can play the slot, he can play safety, he can play just about anywhere. He's one of the best defensive players in the league. And then, just guys on the edge just being able to chip in. Josh Pascal's getting better. Zadarius Smith had a very, very good game. Aleem McNeil had an even better game. They just have found the right pieces to make all these things fit. And if they got to move around and do different things, this was one of the things that they wanted to be able to do, and they're doing it.
Quick turnaround for the first time this season. The Lions playing on Thursday this week. I guess for a team, there's never really a good time for a quick turnaround, but it seems like this is an especially bad time for the Lions. I mean, man, they are banged up every Sunday. For as good as the outcomes and the stats and the scoreboard has been, it seems like there's one or two injuries every week. I mean, Carlton Davis, Amon-Ra St. Brown were two of the notables from this past week. I know Campbell's gonna speak later on Tuesday, and who knows what we'll know before Thursday. But where is this team right now on the injury front? Can you expect Arnold to come back on Thursday? What are we looking at with this team's injury list?
Yeah, I think there's a really good shot that Arnold comes back. They did a walkthrough yesterday, so it wasn't a full practice, but he was considered to be a full participant on their estimated practice sheet, so he should be back. Yesterday, Campbell was asked about the guys that he was the most worried about, and Taylor Decker, Carlton Davis, and Cleve Raymond were those guys. So I think there's a good shot that Amon-Ra St. Brown will play, and David Montgomery, who also went out with an injury last Sunday. But there's going to have to potentially be a shakeup at the offensive line, which is the same thing that happened last year on Thanksgiving with a quick turnaround, and they wound up having to start Coyote Awosika and Colby Solerstol, and yeah. So I think that you can expect some changes here, and the good thing is that Campbell said none of these things appear to be long-term injuries, so potentially you have them back next Thursday against Green Bay, a much more healthy team. But on a short week, it's all about who can I get healed up enough in 3 days' time to get into this game. And right now, you just got to hope for the best.
Yeah, and I guess the good news is after that Green Bay game next Thursday, you almost have a second bye. You'll have a week and a half after that to get healthy. But if if any other team in the league had an injury list as long as the Lions, it would be detrimental in the win-loss column. But this team is just, we talked about it with the defense, but it's really every position group has been next man up. What does it say about the coaching staff or about the job Brad Holmes was able to do to you know get the depth as deep as it is that they have significant injuries. They've had significant guys miss time, but they're rattling off wins left and right.
I think this is a lot about Brad Holmes' talent evaluator, talent that he has. It's unbelievable. He's able to just find guys out of the trash heap. I wrote an article about Tim Patrick earlier this week, how this guy was just somebody that was thrown away. The Lions needed a receiver to replace Josh Reynolds, and they just grabbed this guy on last second, and he's for the most part replacing exactly what it was that Reynolds did on this team, where he could almost anytime he catches the ball, it's a first down. Just for Holmes to be able to find those guys, and even as undrafted guys and late round draft picks, it's unbelievable. I mean, I think there's a chance that he could be executive of the year again this offseason. So in terms of what it says about the team itself, I think that culture is just huge. It's the idea of playing for something that's bigger than yourself, and I think everybody on this team understands what's at stake and what they want to accomplish. And next man up is something that everybody says, but this team takes it really seriously.
Someone who had another great game this past Sunday. I mean, it's every week for David Montgomery. So the fact that the Lions are playing the Bears on Thursday, you have to talk about Montgomery because you ask yourself how do you let that guy go? How do you let someone like that go to a division rival and be as good as he's been? Just how much of a workhorse, how good has Montgomery been for this offense? Of course, him and Gibbs, one of the best 1-2 punches in the league, but specifically looking at Montgomery and what he's been able to do this season.
Oh, I mean, this guy sets the tone for what this running team wants to do. He goes out there, he lowers the shoulder, he bangs around. It takes 3, 4 guys to try to tackle him every single time. He runs with purpose. He runs like he wants to score a touchdown every single play, and no matter what happens. And yeah, this is a big one for him against Chicago. We saw it last year. How much he took that seriously and how much he took it personally that the Bears would let him go, and he got his revenge at least at home last year when they got that game-winning touchdown with him. But I definitely would expect that if he plays, which I think he will, he is going to be the same. I think this is a guy that he doesn't forget things, and he wants to make sure the Bears don't forget it either. So yeah, I would definitely expect a lot from Knuckles in this one.
So Bears coming to town on Thursday, the same place Caleb Williams got drafted back in April, the first of many, many times the Lions will face Williams over who knows how many years. It's been an interesting year for the Bears. Their fan base expected better. Williams has shown promise. He's shown rookie mistakes. He's been somewhat of a classic rookie quarterback. What have you seen out of Caleb Williams? We've talked, a bunch this season about, the Lions defense going up against the running quarterback or the mobile quarterback. What does Williams what threats does he pose going into Thursday?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, you watch his film, you could see that this guy, he doesn't want to go down. Like he's going to move all over the place, and sometimes that really helps him, and other times it kind of makes things worse because he's like one of those guys that likes to run backwards to try to avoid the sack, and sometimes those guys get caught and make things even worse. But I'm seeing a player that's getting better. I thought he had a really good game against Minnesota on Sunday, and went over 300 yards and had some really great throws in that game. It's just the Bears just as a whole couldn't stop that Vikings team, and Justin Jefferson, he's tough to stop. Uh, but I see a team that that is a lot like the Lions in the sense that I'm looking at this 2021 2022 type version of the Lions where the Bears are kind of like they're almost there. They're figuring it out. You could see it, the process happening as it goes along. I think they'll probably have a new head coach next year, but you could see the team starting to meld together and things are starting to work. And the Lions are catching them on a short week with a bunch of injuries. I would not write this team off. I would not go and say that this is an easy win for the Lions. I think this is going to be a really tough game.
Yeah, because I mean the Bears are losing, but they're not losing by a lot. They've been in,
Right.
pretty much every game the last couple weeks. You look at 2 Sundays ago, the blocked field goal last Sunday, the overtime loss to the Vikings. What about this Bears team makes you think that, it could be a bit of a dogfight on Thursday instead of, maybe an easier victory that the 10.5 point spread would allow you to think it could be?
Yeah, I mean, I think defensively, Chicago just they've got a strong pass rush. They've got a decent run stop. Nobody really looks at them as one of the hard teams to beat, but they're just this team, like you mentioned, they just stick around and they just stick around and stick around, and eventually, one of those times they're going to catch a break, and you just got to hope that you're not the team that they catch a break against. But offensively, with so many weapons that they have, even though they are somewhat underperforming, eventually those guys they got to click in at some point, right? And you just have to once again hope that you're not the team that they click in against. So I definitely would not expect a blowout in this game.
Been straight losses on Thanksgiving, which is pretty crazy to think about. When you think, during that 7 year course, why can't they win on this holiday? And we think that's going to change this year, but why can't they win on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I don't know. Last year it was there was the moon, that was kind of the big thing. Everybody
Mhm.
like it was waxing gibbous moon and everybody freaked out about that. I've somehow turned that into my thing. I don't know how that happened, uh but yeah, that was a big thing. And then the year before, an unbelievable game against the Bills. They just couldn't hold on long enough. And then before that, I mean, we just know that the Lions were just a bad team for a while. I think that this is the one that they can win, and I believe that maybe they can start a new streak of positive things where they win on Thanksgiving all the time. I know that Lions fans want it really bad. I know I want it really bad too. It's just your turkey just tastes so much better when they win.
What, as someone who's been a lifelong Lions fan, compared to someone like me who's always watched the Lions on Thanksgiving, but this is my first time experiencing them. What does Thanksgiving football and the Lions mean to the state of Michigan, the city of Detroit, that, it's the tradition. Thanksgiving comes along with the Lions.
Well, I mean, for me, this is how I got into football. This is the whole family coming together. We're all watching one TV. We're all, cheering for the same team, eating our food, and it's a bonding experience that you can have with everyone in your family and with your friends and everything. And no matter what your situation is, it's one of those things you can come together on Thanksgiving. And if you lose, then hey, you're with family that day, and it's okay. You'll get over. And if you win, well, you might need to take Friday off because you and your family are going to get a little crazy that night. But it's always something that is, yeah, that I've held dearly. I absolutely love being able to sit with the family and watch Thanksgiving. It's a little different for me now that it's my job and everything. But yeah, no, it's definitely a big deal for everybody in Detroit, and it's kind of our thing too. Like it's the Cowboys do it every year, but they adopted it way later than everybody else. Way later than the Lions did, and this has always been Detroit's day. And for a team that's been bad for a lot of my life, it's nice to have at least one day where everybody cares about it.
So does the streak get broken on Thursday? How do you see this one going down? And do they put the 7 game Thanksgiving losing streak behind them?
Yes, I do believe that they will put down the streak and it'll be gone for hopefully forever and or at least a long time. I'm going to go with the Lions taking the win 24-20 over the Bears.
All right. All right. Thanksgiving Lions Bears should be a lot of fun. 2 Thursday games because Lions right back in action the following Thursday to host the Packers in another big division showdown. Mike, appreciate your time per usual, and we'll catch up with you next week for another early week pregame before for another Thursday night football game.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jacob.